So this is the follow-up that I promised. I have ridden the board for 61 miles as of this video, and unfortunately I was not able to overcome the range issue that I was having when I first started riding the board. If you didn't watch that video, the problem I was having is that I was only getting 3 miles of ride time, and that's, you know, with very small inclines at best, pretty much all flat. For the most part, I'm talking paved, you know, neighborhood roads, city streets, that sort of deal. And then, believe it or not, even with, and I rode a couple inclines that were probably pretty steep, and the range didn't really change, which is a little weird to me, that, you know, flat versus inclines both ways, you know, going up and coming back, that I was only able to get 3 miles. So I immediately reached out to Inboard. Shout out to their customer service team. They worked with me for probably about 2 months now. I ordered my board back in June, got it beginning of July, and started riding. It's now September. About 2 months back and forth. The team at Inboard worked with me to ship me new batteries just in case I was having battery issues. So I went through about 3 swaps of 2 batteries. I did end up getting my second battery, so I have the spare battery and then the one that's in the board, hence why the lights are on. But I went through three sets of 2 batteries with Inboard. The original ones that I ordered, the first replacement set, and then this final set. And I wasn't able to overcome that 3 mile hurdle. And to caveat that, I was riding on the advanced setting. However, the last thing that I tried, per the advice of the technicians at Inboard and the customer service team, was to scale it down to the intermediate setting, which is also, I guess, eco or whatever. But that only increased my range by a half mile. So that half mile wasn't really worth it to me because I had already gotten used to riding on the advanced mode, so that speed and acceleration. So if you don't know, the intermediate mode for the M1 is 60% of the torque that it has to offer, and then it caps out at speed-wise at, I believe, between 14 and 18 miles an hour. I believe when I was doing the last test run, when I was doing it, I was averaging about 14 and a half. I think the max speed you can get is 16 to 18 miles, whereas when you're riding on the advanced mode, you get 100% of the torque, so the board is much more responsive, and then you get up to that top speed of that 20 miles an hour or so, which usually, in my experience, ended up being an average ride speed of 18 and a half miles an hour. You know, that's with some braking in there for turns and traffic and, you know, changing terrain, you know, trying not to bomb it. But with all that being said, I do love this board. It has been a pleasure to ride. Like I said, especially in that advanced mode, that torque and that responsiveness, getting you up to speed is beautiful. The braking on it is actually really surprisingly good. Haven't had any issues with the braking. More recently, I've even started riding in reverse for long periods of time. If I don't feel like flipping the board around, I'll just ride in reverse, and then the acceleration going in reverse as well as the braking is just as good going in the proper direction. Other than that though, the board carves really well. I would recommend, if you decide to get one, that you adjust the trucks. Believe it shipped pretty loose when I originally got it, and I tightened it up a little bit in some areas. Now it rides like a dream. But for me, you know, I'm 185, and the reason why I really wanted this board is because of these batteries. The batteries are what sold me. The interchangeable quick swap batteries that are airline approved was the reason why I went ahead and pulled the trigger on the M1 versus anything else in the market. But, and this is the huge but, at only an average of 3 miles per battery, had 6 miles for 2 batteries, and I can do that with 1 battery in a comparable board in the same price range. So, you know, 3 miles on a single battery for a 6 mile total range just isn't enough for me. Doesn't cut it for price range that this is coming at. Maybe you may have better luck if you're a bit smaller than I am, or maybe your streets are just nicer, or you just go downhill all the way. But for me, 3 miles just wasn't enough. So I'm actually gonna take one last ride with this bad boy, and then I am gonna send it back to the fine folks at Inboard. And then I'm gonna test out some more boards from some other companies to see if there's anything out there that can get me, 10 miles, or these are advertised at a 7 mile range plus or minus 2 miles. And I honestly would have even been okay if I would have got closer to that 5 mile range out of the board, especially on the advanced setting. That would have been fine with me to have a 10 mile total radius, because then I would have got one more battery. They give me 15 miles, and that would pretty much get me anywhere I would reasonably want to go on a skateboard or a longboard. But 6 miles living where I do just doesn't get me really far, but stuck in the middle of nowhere pretty much. So I was hoping to take this and use it as a commute, my commute to work. If I were to use one of these bad boys or to bike, it's roughly 12 miles. So it would take me 4 of these bad boys to get to work. And if I have to do 4 battery changes, that's over an hour for me to get to and from work, riding a board. The idea of it sounds lovely, to ride into work on a longboard. Inboard just, however, isn't that board for me apparently. But I'm hoping to find something else out there that is air travel friendly. That way, as soon as I land in a city, I can just take off and not have to worry about transportation, because I know I brought mine with me and can get pretty much anywhere I need to go. But other than that, if you guys have questions about the board, please do let me know. One of the other positive things that I will say about the M1 and Inboard Technologies as a company is their app is actually pretty cool. The app has some pretty nice features. You can change the settings on the board from the app. You can actually use the app as a remote control. When I first got the board, I was having some issues when I got to lower battery. So when I get to that mid to low or low power reserve on the battery, the controller started having connection issues. So to get that last quarter mile home, I did have to use the phone to actually power the board and keep me going. So it was nice to have that as an option available. So I will say kudos to them for that. And then the board does also, not the board, sorry, but the app does also have the odometer, so you can keep track of all the miles that you're putting on the board. As far as handling, any normal skateboard, you tune it to how you like it. I did ride in a light mist last night. The board handled really great. It is a head turner. The board looks great. In my personal opinion, I don't know too many people who have any complaints about the board, other than the people who would prefer a flexible deck. But all the experts are saying that stiffer deck at higher speeds is better for you to prevent the wobbles, which is a scary feeling if you've ever had it happen to you. I haven't had it happen on one of these, but I have had it happen to me on a traditional longboard, so I can definitely appreciate that. Other than that, I am going to leave you all with some more clips of my final few miles with the M1. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to find out which board I go with next and try out to see if it can live up to my needs. Other than that, comment below with your thoughts on the M1 and maybe some suggestions on what I should go to next. Let me know if you've had an M1, what your range experience has been, and if you have any other boards, let me know what kind of range you get on average for what you have expected versus what they advertise, sort of deal. Other than that, Check these out.